Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to have an opportunity of contributing to this discussion. The webinar raises the question, is threatening sanctions enough? I want to come at this question from a different perspective. I want to start by looking at the decision of the International Court of Justice issued last July. The court spent some time considering the question of the lawfulness or otherwise of the Israeli occupation, the settlement policies, and the policies and practices generally in relation to Palestinian people. After giving this issue detailed consideration and hearing submissions from a very large number of states, the court said that the occupation was unlawful, that the settlements were unlawful, and that Israel had an obligation under international law to end the occupation and the settlement policy. The decision of the court related very much to the obligations of other states as well, not just to the obligations of Israel, the state of Israel. The court made it very clear that because Israel was breaching major, serious obligations under international law, other states had an obligation not to aid or assist in the commission of those unlawful acts in any way. Now, this immediately placed an obligation on other states to examine their relationship with the State of Israel, the State of Israel as a whole, not just the occupied territories, to determine whether there was any way in which they were aiding and assisting the continuation of these unlawful acts. So this question is not simply a question of whether sanctions are a good idea or not in placing pressure on the State of Israel. It's a more fundamental question about whether the states, other than Israel, are in any way aiding and assisting the continuation of unlawful activity. The court indicated that this kind of responsibility went right across the board. It covered military support, clearly, but also financial and economic support, political aid and support, and cultural engagement. My expectation, and the expectation of the Commission of Inquiry, of which I'm a member, was that states would immediately respond to this very strong, very detailed examination by the court and the court's decision by undertaking a thorough review of all aspects of their relationship with the State of Israel. And as part of that review, considering whether any aspect of those relationships constituted aiding and assisting the continuation of the unlawful acts. This was not just a good policy move on the part of other states, but a binding obligation under international law. It's a question of complicity, again, part of the title for this webinar. We don't know of any states or groups of states that have undertaken this thorough review. There certainly are none that have released publicly the results of their review. And yet, this was the inevitable obligation arising from the court's decision that they were all under. Where are the reviews? Where is the examination of whether states, and I mean individual states, but also groups like the European Union, where is the examination of whether the political relationships with the State of Israel are in any way aiding and assisting the occupation? Where is the thorough investigation of all of the economic and financial links? These extend to questions of trading with settlements, clearly, investing in them, but also economic relationships with Israeli firms, such as information technology firms, firms developing surveillance equipment, that results in products that are used to support the occupation. I don't know of any such reviews, and yet these are obligations arising on individual states and groups of states in accordance with the decision of the International Court of Justice. Now, European states and other Western states, such as my own, Australia, are always very strong in supporting what they call the rule of law, the international rule of law. And yet the international rule of law requires respect for the decisions of the International Court of Justice and a willingness to act upon the court's orders and the court's views, but that hasn't happened. This kind of examination is just as relevant now as it was last July. In fact, I would say even more so. Our Commission of Inquiry has found and reported from as far back as June last year that the Israeli actions in Gaza since the 7th of October 2023 constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. So part of the obligation to examine whether any actions, policies, practices of other states are aiding and supporting unlawful action on the part of Israel extends to looking at the ways in which other states are giving support, moral or otherwise, to what is happening in Gaza. Now, as I say, this is not a question of pressuring the state of Israel. It's a question of meeting state obligations under international law. These obligations can't be avoided if we are committed to the international rule of law. The starting point, then, is an urgent, thorough examination, released publicly, of these relationships, and then action to ensure that any areas that are identified that can be seen that have the effect of aiding and assisting the unlawful actions are stopped. It's as simple as that. It's a question of law.